Welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast, where we talk about the struggles and celebrations that leaders and entrepreneurs experience on their journey to success. I'm your host, Kristina, and I'm passionate about helping you achieve massive amounts of success at work and at home. We'll talk about all things people and organizational wellness, share relatable stories, and feature insightful guests because quality people and processes are at the heart of every success story. Ready to learn, grow, and have fun? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Business Building Blocks podcast. I'm your host, Kristina Schmitt. I got a new microphone. Can you tell? As I've been talking about it through several episodes, I'd say in the last few months, I've been upgrading, changing, and modifying my podcast setup, all to make it a little bit better for you, a little bit better for me. But, obviously giving you a better sound quality, giving you a better setup can all help get the message across better. So the latest tweak I've done is upgrading my podcast microphone, and it's very exciting. You can see how cool it looks if you're on YouTube. But one thing that kind of strikes me about it, and the big goal of really doing this next level in my sound, was to get a little bit more silence. Does that make any sense when we're trying to hear? It turns out I was using a bad microphone or the wrong type of microphone, and this upgrade is the proper type of microphone for the type of setup, a room, a non-treated room, so it works better for this setup. So this has been my latest tweak, and I think it looks cooler because I look like a podcaster now, but I just need the cool headphones. So someday we'll get there. Tiny tweaks. Today, when you're listening to this real time, it'll come out the third week of Advent. So for those of you who don't follow the liturgical calendar, this is the third week of December. So we essentially have about a week and a half before Christmas. What do you think of a week and a half before Christmas? I know some of the things going through my mind. It is, oh my gosh, the kids are going to be out of school at the end of the week. Am I ready for Christmas? Do I have everything purchased for everybody that needs it? Teacher gifts. Who else am I supposed to buy for? So it's a lot of scramble. And then you start getting Christmas parties. And the big thing that I feel like it gets very loud and very busy. But that's the exact opposite of, number one, what Advent should be. But number two, what we need, particularly in this time as leaders and business owners. So let's talk a little bit about Advent. So Advent is a season of preparation. It's preparation for the coming of the Lord, coming of Jesus. The initial one was a preparation for the birth. And now in this season, as part of the regular liturgical calendar, it's actually the kickoff of the liturgical year. But it is our time to prepare for Christ's second coming. And so that is a way for us to prepare ourselves, mind, body, soul, to be ready to go with him. And it should be quiet. It should be softer. And it should be, I'm not going to say, well, I do want to say it should be restful. There should be a rest and a silence to it. And that silence is what I want to spend some time talking about today, and how that can help you in preparation for Advent, preparation for Christmas, but also as a human, to be a better human for your family, for your friends, a better leader. And it can also help your business. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about why this silence is important. So first of all, it is designed in our makeup here that we should have a rest. So I've mentioned this before, but if you go all the way back to Genesis in the Bible, God rested. God took a rest on the seventh day. There's a commandment that says we are meant to rest on the seventh day. We are meant to not do any work, to not work hard, and to take that time to pause and to reflect and to think about, or just process, or just to spend time with family, spend time with God, spend time with our thoughts and ourselves and in our prayer and reflection. So we're designed that way, and we function better that way. I also want to mention, I just want to read this little bit of scripture because this one jumps out at me. I probably don't talk about this much, but I absolutely love the Old Testament, and I think there is so much to learn within the Old Testament. So I want to read something from 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 11 and 12. So if you're familiar with what's happening in First Kings, I think most of us have heard of Elijah, right? So Elijah is kind of a prominent figure in Advent, and John the Baptist was meant to be in the spirit of Elijah. So very prominent, and good that we should be paying attention to him right now. But he had just done this big challenge. This is actually kind of a funny area. So go and read couple chapters before. He'd just done this big challenge with all the priests of Baal. So Baal, Baal, Baal. I say it wrong. I say it in my head and it sounds cool, but I don't think I say it out loud well. But he had just proven to them basically that his God was the powerful God, was the God. And they were just using magic and divination and everything else. And he could overpower them. And he was running away because I think Jezebel was going to come after him. So he has gone off to the wilderness and he's just had it. He's done. He's like, everybody's killing all the prophets and yikes. So he is just done, right? Have you felt like that? Where you're just done, but everybody needs something from you. Everybody is chasing after you. You're just proving yourself all the time. And you're like, I don't even know what to do. I'm going to pull my hair out. So this is what Elijah has done. So I'm going to read this. For verse 11 here, just to preface this a little bit before I start reading it. God has asked him already, why are you here? Then God answered. He goes, and he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. So it was after all the crazy, and it was when it was quiet that the still small voice came. So as we're in this season that is meant to be quiet, and there's all this level of crazy happening, we need to go find that still small voice, that still quiet spot, so we can hear the still small voice. We can hear where we're meant to go, what our next steps should be, how we should be embarking on this new year and being ready for it. So I want to talk a little bit about, I'll share some of my experiences with it, but also, convinced to take some slow down time to take that pause and to find the quiet so you can find the still small voice. So I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to get started, because like most of us, especially we're busy leaders, you might be doing everything. You might be a solopreneur, but you also might have a team of 20 around you that all need something from you. How do you find the still small voice? How do you find the quiet so you can hear it? And, how do you silence the voice in your head too, and the crazy loud that comes from your own brain to be able to hear it? So I'll get you some tips to get started and some best practices that I've learned and I'm still working with and trying to get better with as well myself. First of all, a little bit more about why we can do it. I gave you, from scripture, like we were designed to do it. Elijah heard it. He took the silence after all the crazy. But for us as humans on this earth, most of us probably are not prophets, right? But we need this time. We need this quiet in order to get some clarity, in order to find some stillness, in order to improve our well-being and be able to say, this is working for me or this is not working for me. As leaders, whether you're leaders of your household or leaders of your business or your team or your children, we need that time to reflect and to say, whether something is working for us or not and what we're going to do differently as we move forward. So some from my own learning, I know, I think back to when I was a leader, I was told I needed to take the silence, and there was a lot of pushback. I wanted to do it. I was like, I know I need to do it. I knew in my head I needed to do it, but I had never experienced how it would benefit me. And I had never experienced how to do it or even what it would look like or what I should be doing. I would actually schedule time in my calendar and I'd say, okay, I'm going to think, because I was told I needed to sit and think. And I was like, I know I do. I know that would be good. So I just sit there and then I get super antsy. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, this other thing needs to get done. And then I go walk the floor and go see what needs to get done. Or I would, go answer some emails because I was like, there's so much happening. I couldn't possibly stop and do nothing. or think. But the reality is you are doing something, and thinking is doing, even though it doesn't feel like doing. So for those of us maybe on the lower end of the working genius spectrum, so your GET types, we like to be in motion. We like to be doing things, particularly if you're ET, but even if you're ED, but I even like doing things, and I like to be moving and moving things forward. So sitting and thinking and contemplating feels like I'm wasting time. But I want you to stop and think about, when do your best ideas come? Most people will say either while driving or a lot of times while they're in the shower. Those times when you're forced to be by yourself and you're forced to maybe have some kind of silence. Driving, I've been able to fill a lot of voids of driving, listening to podcasts, listening to music, singing along with it. But if you've ever taken a quiet drive or a quiet walk without headphones in your ears, those would be great times for ideas. But ultimately, like shower, right? Like everybody thinks a lot in the shower because it's quiet. It's, your brain is having time to process and think through things. And again, with the design, that is why we sleep, because our brain has to like download and re-upload everything and reflect on it. So our subconscious does it while we sleep, but we kind of have to do it in a conscious way as well when we're awake. So let's just say, for example, if you're a very busy leader, you're running around and you have a lot of inputs through your day. You have a lot of people talking at you, a lot of meetings popping up. Your inbox is constantly going ding, ding, if you do that. And you've got a lot of noise. First of all, turn off all your notifications, right? That will help quiet some of the noise. But again, we need to figure out how to create and stick to this sort of reflection time. So again, this is a season where I would say let's do a little more of it, because we want to reflect on bigger picture things. But ultimately, you want to incorporate this into your day-to-day, and dare I say it, every day. Something that I have now been doing, I'm going to say for 3-4 years now, I think I have been taking 30 minutes of contemplative prayer in the morning. Sometimes it's better than others. Sometimes I fall asleep, but it is such a life-giving time. Somebody recently told me that is the Lord's time to breathe into you, to give you life, to give you breath. And that time for me has been so rewarding, so impactful to my life, and just even my well-being day to day. So if you know anything about me, I'm a bit bouncy around, like to be busy, like to be moving, have a hard time quieting my brain. But that 30 minutes, if I don't get it, I'm a little restless the rest of the day. I know it's good for me. So I have been able to work it in. I am probably one of the most challenged people to do this. So if I can do it, I know you can. I have faith. But it takes a little bit of time to work in and a little bit of preparation maybe. So I want to give you and share with you some tips to get started and tips to continue to grow on it. Some tips. So first of all, schedule a time in your day that you're going to do it. So for the daily stuff, schedule a time of day that works for you. So like for me, first thing in the morning, I have played with, and I'm still playing with, whether I like to work out first or reflect first. I'm currently praying first, and then I'm not getting to my workout. So I'm actually thinking I might flip-flop that, because the movement before helps me focus better. So I get some wiggles out, and then I'm able to kind of sit with it. And it is nice to have that cup of coffee after I've done a little movement. And then I can, I've got the wiggles out of my body. So it kind of quiets my brain a little bit. So that can be a good tip for you if you are really struggling to quiet your mind. First thing in the morning can be very helpful before you do anything like look at your phone or anything else. Dan Burke, he's written a book called Into the Deep. He refers to those things as the monkeys. So before the monkeys wake up, start. So it can be like first thing in the morning, as soon as you get out of bed. The second thing, if you're struggling to quiet your mind, even despite not looking at your phone and not having a lot of monkey things, letting the monkeys wake up, the next thing to do would be to maybe move, right? To exercise first. So whether that's going for a walk or doing a workout video or going to the gym, whatever, but just get something to kind of move your body, to get the wiggles out of your body so you can get the wiggles out of your brain. So those are some good tips. Another thing that can be really helpful, particularly if you're having a hard time focusing, is journaling. So I've had a lot of luck just journaling, like stream of consciousness, just whatever comes to my brain, just start writing. Sometimes your mind goes faster than your hand can, but there is a lot of power in keeping along a similar train of thought and not bouncing to many trains of thoughts by doing the writing part of it. So that can be very helpful as well if you tend to bounce around in different ideas. Another thing that can really help, and has helped me a ton just over the years of doing it, and even really before my maybe big official reversion, I'm having a structured reflection. So many, many years ago. So this is before even moving to Canada, when I was still living in Wisconsin. So if you didn't know that about me, I had gotten a little daily reflection book from my church and was able to just spend, well, I had two different ones, but the one was 6 minutes a day. It was meant to just be 6 minutes of quiet reflection. So it'd be a little 2 pages to read, and then you were meant to spend the rest of the time being quiet. It wasn't as good at doing the extra time being quiet, but it was such a powerful thing to have something to reflect on, to have like a book to read to kind of guide some thoughts for you, or to jump new ideas into your brain that you may not have gotten otherwise. So currently what I do now is I read the daily mass readings, and then I have a book that has 3 different blocks of writing around it. So I'll read the first block and kind of reflect a bit, read the second, reflect, and read the third, reflect. Typically, I run out of time before I finish the 3. I struggle. Sometimes I keep going. Sometimes I read it all and don't reflect. I'm a work in process, but having the structure, and for me in particular, reflecting on the gospel and the daily mass readings in general, I really like that. I think that keeps me along the liturgical calendar. Number one, it ties the weekly homilies in really well. So I'm constantly up to date with what's happening in the church, with the liturgical calendar, and what we're going to be speaking about at Mass and where I should be going. So I really like that process for me, but it does help, right? If you sit down and say, okay, I'm going to think, your brain's going to go everywhere, and it may or may not be a good place, and you may have a hard time with it. I know many years ago, so I used to have a hard time with silence. And I hear a lot of people talking about that now, even between anxiety and everything else and all the noise of the world. It is hard to quiet your mind, and that silence can bring stress. So an unfocused time of trying to be quiet and just think about anything and everything, that might actually lead to more stress. So giving your brain and your mind, your body, everything, something to focus on. So a structured reading first, and then kind of reflecting on that reading can be very helpful. Sometimes after reflecting on that reading, you may go off into something else. I find myself very much thinking about work a lot, which good or bad, I don't know. Sometimes it relates, sometimes it's not related. It's a distraction. But ultimately having that something to come back to can help streamline the thought process as well. So having the very structured something can be very helpful, especially when you're new or you're just starting out, or you just have a hard time focusing on things. But the fourth thing is making it a habit. So, I'm going to push you to do some time, and I'm going to give you a guided reflection to do at the end of this, to do some special time because of the time of year it is. But the more you can do this, the more you can allow yourself to be breathed into on a regular basis, like a daily basis, the better. Having that time and building that time into your morning habit, your evening habit, your lunchtime habit, whatever it may be, wherever that's going to work, is great. You can talk about habit stacking, like find a time where you're already kind of doing something and stack this on top of it. Great way to do that. And then another tip is to start small. I did kind of start with a big 30-minute clump. I struggled a lot, but I had a big guided reading to do, so that kind of helped. But if you're just going to sit in the quiet and the silence and not have something structured to read, start with like 3 minutes and literally set a timer. I have a timer. I actually use my Hallow app, and it's got an unguided prayer time, which is literally just a 30-minute timer, but it starts out with somebody welcoming you, and it tells you when to stop without an abrupt alarm sound. So I like that personally. You can add music to the background, but I found sometimes that it helped, and sometimes it super distracted me. So I've just gone to quiet now. Starting small and starting with like 3 to 5 minutes and building up from there can be a really great way to build that habit in and build your reflection muscles up before trying to sit there for 30 minutes and figure out out what to do. And last, I said this already, but it's last on my list, but get the movement in before. So sometimes that can really help. It can clear the decks for you. For me, I know in particular, if I'm struggling in the middle of the day to do something or to have a focus on anything, going for a walk outside is huge. So if you're in the north like me and it's frigidly cold and still snowing, maybe bundle up, but the cold actually might help too. So those are some great tips to kind of help you get started, to help you see some benefit from it and work through some of the struggles with it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about, because this is a leadership and a business podcast, a little bit about how can we reflect very specifically in this season. And in particular, you can take these questions that I'm going to give you for you personally, for you as the leader of your business, or for your business. But ultimately, there's some great reflections that would be wonderful to do on your own. And if you have a team, like a leadership team that you do your strategy with, would be a wonderful way to reflect and share together as you wrap up this year and really put your best foot forward in the new year coming up. So here's some questions for you. You can take them away and reflect on them one at a time. I reflect on them all at the same time. I think that would be a bit daunting, but take 2 or 3, maybe reflect and write, journal, think through them, and then do another 2 or 3 of them before. So I've got 6 on here total. Okay, so to start off, what am I most proud of this year? So just starting off with just something like what has gone really, really well. And as part of the reflection, I want you to ask yourself why. Why did this go well? What were the circumstances around it? Who or what was involved? Just really tell the story of what is proud, what has made you proud, and where can you kind of pat yourself on the back. The next one, what's been on my mind lately? So a lot of times, especially entrepreneurs, we get a lot of ideas. We get a lot of, I like to call mine harebrained ideas, but we get a lot of things running through our brain. And it could be something like a system that you're looking at. It could be like for me, what's been on my brain a lot this year, and you can see because I keep playing with it, but is this video setup that I've got. I've been slowly upgrading, what it looks like, first getting it back to standard and now making it better. What's that? Sometimes it's system things, but other times it's like, okay, what about the whole direction of what I'm doing? This other idea has been on my brain. So get that out of your head and put it down on paper and just write it down. It can be a big laundry list of all the things that have been on your mind, or really just go in depth to the 1 or 2 that have been really, really there. So just get that out of your brain again and write it down. The third question, what were my biggest failures? And then again, ask yourself why. What were the circumstances? Who or what was involved? Again, tell that story. So we learn so much from reflecting on where we've made mistakes or where we've had failures. So reflecting on that is absolutely huge to just say, okay, what did I learn today? What did I learn this year? And how can I go and take that away? So it's great to notice these things, both in what went well for us and what isn't going well for us. Because what we might recognize is that there's some patterns, that there might be patterns of, type of work. Obviously, I talk about Working Genius a lot. It might be the type of work that we're looking at, but it also could be, a circumstance in general, or a place, or a group that we're in, or just something that maybe isn't feeding us, or maybe isn't giving us what we need right now, or maybe something that is feeding us that we should be doing more of. And we're not going to get there if we don't pause and stop and actually reflect on those things. So that was question 3. So those are 3 pretty big questions to kick off. Some other smaller questions. These ones might be a little easier, but what was my biggest or my most common roadblock this year? So what got in your way this year? You may have set some goals and maybe you didn't get there. What got in the way? When we can figure out what gets in the way, whether it's big year-long goals or small, what got in the way of me not putting my laundry away, right? We can then solve it. And we can see what got in the way. So reflecting on that, again, in that large point of view of the year, can again help identify what's our next course of action we need to take, or what should we continue to do or do more of or less of. So again, helping us just identify direction and understand what's happening. And very related to the fourth question, the fifth question is, what was my biggest, most helpful, or most common tailwind? So what's that thing that helped me the most? Was it that reflection time I had every day? Those were the days I showed up well. And when I didn't show up well. Or, in my business, it was when we worked with this client, everything went really well, versus I worked with this other client, nothing did. There's something to recognize there. It could be something about the client, but it could be something about how you work with them. Again, recognizing the patterns in our lives are hugely helpful. And then the last one, take this question how you will. I'm going to take it in a faith-filled way. So my question I'm giving you is, ask the Lord, what do you want me to do? The other way to take that would be, what is my next step? But I think that you'll find more benefit from the first right way. But what do you want me to do? And just listen. Keep the silence and listen for that small, quiet voice, that small, still voice to help determine the next steps in the next direction. So if you found this episode, this reflection helpful, please like it, share it with a friend, and leave a comment, leave a review, and just let me know what's working for you, what helped. It helps me with my reflection when I can hear what you found helpful. But ultimately, my goal is to share this news and share everything with the world. So share it with everyone who might find this helpful. And I will see you on the next episode of the Business Building Blocks podcast. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Building Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's next. If you found value in our conversation, please leave a quick review, like, or share. It helps us reach more amazing listeners like you. For more resources and insights, visit KristinaSchmitt.ca, where you can find tools and support to empower your leadership journey. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.